Welcome to Take Your EV, episode 7, where we still make a sound, just in a different key. In today's episode, I'm going to feature an interview with Kate and James. Kate and James are a couple living in the UK. They review all sorts of EVs. James enjoys himself in racing EVs across the country, competing with other people. And I do highly recommend you visit their YouTube channel if you've never seen it. Just look up Kate and James on YouTube and you'll find them. So without further ado, Kate and James.
Well, I do have an issue with punctuality, I have to admit.
I've recorded a conversation with them over Skype, and it's just my side of the recording, I'm afraid. So the audio quality is not as great as it used to be in previous episodes, but bear with us. It's still a great interview. Please listen to it and let me know what you think. Kate and James, welcome to Take It EV. We talk about all things EV, obviously. So my usual starter question for the guests is the how did you guys get into EVs? What was the sort of inception? Presumably you guys didn't drive EVs all the time.
Well, I actually had a Clio 182, which was a 2-litre petrol car, and James came into my life and then persuaded me that I needed to buy an electric car, basically. And our first car then was a Nissan Leaf. James had quite a big passion for electric cars when I first met him, and he did a lot of persuasion. Yeah. And so we ended up getting the Leaf, and then we did quite a big road trip in our Nissan Leaf and gained our confidence in electric vehicles, and it really just went from there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So also Jonathan Porterfield was instrumental in that. We borrowed a Leaf from him. That was our first real experience, and we tested it, and we decided from that moment that a Leaf was the way to go. And back then the car we tested was a Japanese version, so it was quite poor in relation to what you can get now. I mean, if you compared it to your 30 kilowatt Leaf, it's quite a low range car.
So it was a 2011 24 kilowatt hour Leaf.
It was with the very cream interior. Yeah. And, but yeah, it was great. We loved it. I think we did 300 miles in it, didn't we?
Yeah, we borrowed it for a test drive and we did 300 miles, which I think was a bit of a shock when we handed it back. But John wasn't bothered. He was happy that he just, we had a good experience, and we ended up buying a Leaf. So yeah, it worked.
And that's it. We ended up for £28,000 as well. So it was outrageously priced, but yeah, we got it from a Nissan main dealer, and then that was it. There was no way back. It became our only car as well. So we had one car, and it was a Nissan Leaf. So yeah,
that sounds very much like my own story, except that that mine was 30 kilowatt hour Leaf. I bought it brand new as well, and because for better or worse, I believe that when somebody, it's just a business thing. When somebody tells me that this is the price, I don't question it. Like I can either take it or leave it. So when I went to the garage and I got my own car, and they told me it's 8 grand it was as well. That was that. Like nobody told me that you can go to Nissan and actually get a cheaper price. Yeah. I've learned obviously since, but okay. So so you got the 24 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf. You did a 300 mile round trip. Was it how long time ago was it?
Oh, it would have been 2013.
2013.
So the whole electric highway thing wasn't up to scratch yet, was it?
No, I mean the 300 mile one wasn't too bad. We did we drove from Hinckley up to Strathy to John O'Groats. That was the test, and the infrastructure wasn't great then. So we did have a few hairy moments, didn't we? Yeah. We hit turtle mode a couple of times, and we went past turtle mode and ended up with no miles whatsoever, and we just had to coast into a service station, and we managed it with about that much room. Yeah. And it was pure luck. Yeah. So yeah, but the infrastructure was not great, and it's so much better now. I mean, probably double the amount now, would you say?
Yeah, more than that probably. But on that note, as unreliable as it was in terms of the amount of chargers back then, it's now probably as unreliable going forward now with more chargers, because so many of them are out of action for a lot of the time. It's every day you see a tweet from somebody who's had a failed charge on an Ecotricity charger, but you don't see that from Polar or Instavolt or anybody else. Everybody else seems to work. The electric car way, unfortunately, I think have took their eye off the ball, and that's making life. Well, I think it's standing in the way now of the uptake actually for EVs, because people who want to get involved now are looking at it and thinking, actually, if all these people can't charge, I'm not going to be able to charge. So I'll stick with a petrol or a diesel. So
yeah, it's actually a note for another rant on my show, because I do sometimes write an essay. Like when I have a thought that just is in my head, I like to write it down, and I just write pages and pages and pages, and then just throw it away because it's rubbish usually. But
don't ever throw it away. Because we sometimes do that with video footage and everything. Actually, we get it back out of the recycle bin. It wasn't that bad, and we can make do.
First question I asked her was, "Do you ever think about electric cars?" No.
The way I've discovered you guys is I can't remember whether I can't remember what the process was, but I stumbled upon you know how YouTube sometimes suggests things to you. I stumbled upon a video of you, Kate, servicing Tesla.
Okay, yes.
And every time I see somebody tinkering with a Tesla, it's usually somewhere in the US.
Yeah.
So it was strange. It was strange, but kind of like you did the whole thing so effortlessly, and like as an engineer, I appreciate when people do things without, like when it's effortless. So you see that somebody's done it a few times before, and they know what they're doing, and they're not making a huge deal out of it.
Yeah.
So it was just. So even though I don't own a Tesla, it was amazing to watch somebody servicing a Tesla and just explaining it like, oh yeah, it's just easy, just do this, do that, Bish bash bosh, done.
I think we probably had a few outtakes, didn't we? Not many on that one, but we had probably a couple.
Yeah, a couple of things got redone, and it doesn't always go to plan. The under tray in particular on the rear, it did not come out as swishly as it did on the video. I can tell you, when it came out, loads of stones and rubbish fell out as well. So we pulled it out, brushed it up.
Don't break the fourth wall.
Popped it back up, and then of course we pulled it out again, and it looked a whole lot more smooth than it actually was. But
so yeah. So you've mentioned that you guys had you bought the Leaf. What was the like? How did you transition to Tesla? Like how difficult was it? And what made you actually decide to go for a Tesla?
I've got to say it's James again. He came home one day and started talking about Teslas a lot, and kept leaving hints around the house, and we talked about it for a long time, and then he booked us a holiday with a Tesla, just driving the Tesla again, the same journey we did with the Leaf, but in a Tesla, a rented Tesla, and it convinced me that how amazing that they are. And then within about 3 weeks, we had an order, so he won, and then we got the Tesla, and it's fantastic. It's a really good car. I mean, we loved our Leaf, and the day our Leaf drove off up the road, I wanted to cry. I was a little bit sad about the Leaf going, but now I'd be really sad if we lost the Tesla. I really would. It's such a good car. Effortless.
It is.
Isn't it?
It is effortless. It's an amazing car.
Yeah.
I think everybody should own a Tesla at some point.
I'd love to. The way my wife puts it is basically, yeah, I shouldn't be saying that on a podcast. I'll probably edit it. But before I got married, or before I even started dating Marianne, I was thinking about getting a Tesla myself. I was like, besides the Leaf, that was the only car that I test drove that actually felt proper. Like didn't feel like it was just a afterthought, or it just. And the garage was like, actually, Leaf was the only non-pure electric garage where I went in and they actually had a car to test drive like straight away.
Yeah.
Everybody else, because I didn't actually say that. But I used to live in Belfast ages ago, as I mentioned before, and before I got my diesel car, which was the car that I had before the Leaf. I was interested in what is it called? They call it Volt in the US, but with a V.
Are you on about the Opel Ampera?
Yes, Opel Ampera. Yeah. So I, because I've been driving Vauxhalls since ages, I stuck to the same brand.
Yeah.
And I was interested in that car because it was different, and it uses something called it's a hybrid, but it uses is it serial hybrid?
Yeah. So it's a range extender.
Yeah. So it's as far as hybrids are concerned, one of my episodes is basically my essay about hybrids, where I just waffle on about hybrids, and probably too fast. I probably lost quite a few people, but I just had to get it out of me. But my favorite architecture when it comes to cars, and I've never built a car in my life, so I have no idea. But from pure engineering, electronics and software and hardware engineering, I understand that serial hybrid is like the most desirable, like the most perfect architecture, because you have essentially an EV with a small enough batteries, because obviously cost of the battery and the weight of it is a big problem. On top of it, you've got a small enough engine that's tuned just within certain parameters, so it actually works very well within those restricted parameters. It's more efficient that way because you're burning less fuel. You can charge it, so it ticks all the boxes as far as the hybrids are concerned. But it also has the range, which is the sort of the flip side of an EV. So you can always just turn up to a petrol station, fill it up, and just and drive off. So I thought it would be the perfect car to have, and I just went in and I asked the salespeople, and they were all like, to be honest, it's sitting there. I'm not going to do a Belfast accent, but they said that it's just been sitting there for half a year. Nobody's been driving it, so it's dead, and nobody can restart it. Like there's no one in here who would know how to actually revive it. So we're waiting for somebody to come in from the headquarters or whatever, or head office. I can't remember what they say, to revive it. And I was put off by that basically. So so it was 2 years after that I test drove a few other things, and I got the Leaf because I could afford the Leaf. Basically, it was the cost is the ultimate thing. But so I got off on a tangent, sorry. And I'm talking about myself, which is a very bad thing when you have guests on.
Oh, it's okay.
But let me just So I jokingly said the other day that if we it was actually a tweet from Tesla asking, what do you call your Tesla? And I said that mine's called Wife Said No.
Excellent.
That's actually quite
but to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, but sort of with my sort of spending and finances, I just can't afford one at the moment, especially Model S, and Model 3 is just coming in, so we'll see how that the other thing is that, and this isn't just me. Like the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm not unique in that circumstance. Quite a few people in this country are just unable to afford something like Tesla Model S. It's not. It's it's even if you lease it, it's paying something like £700 per month or more.
Yeah.
It's just beyond everybody's or most people's financials.
Yeah. That's it.
And then on top of it is the insurance and all that. So I'm trying to talk to people who are interested or who would be interested in cars like a used Leaf, which you can pick up for $6-7 grand, and then you can have an electric car. So and that there is a massive market for it, as you probably know yourselves. There's probably more demand than supply, especially in the second-hand market, and which actually. This wasn't a very smooth segue, but but I've watched your videos you've recorded in France, I think, reviewing the Model 3. So what is that your next step? Are you going to guys have you ordered a Model 3?
We've ummed and ahed this, haven't we?
We have.
I'll let James explain.
So we went and reviewed it, and it was a sort of a review for our channel, and it was a review for ourselves as well. We had seen the car at the Edinburgh Service Centre, but not to drive. And actually, when we looked at it as a family car, there were a few things that sort of put us off. Put Kate off. Not so much me. The main thing was the door handles, because the door handles, you sort of have to roll your hand across it and then push your thumb in and pull it out. And if you've got something in your hand, which often Kate has, being our daughter, or bags of shopping or anything, you either have to change hands or change the side of the car, or it's just awkward to do it. You have to turn your other hand upside down. And we've been quite spoiled, because Model S, you just walk up to it and the door handles present, and you can hook it with your little finger. And because it's an electrical switch, there's no cables inside. It just opens the door. So that makes life really easy. The other thing was the boot opening wasn't quite what we wanted in terms of space. There's enough room in the boot, but it just, with the Tesla, you can literally throw things in the back and they just land somewhere, and you just shut the boot, and that's it. You don't have to worry about it. And also the front, you weren't a massive fan of the front.
Yeah, it's the Model S, I think, is beautiful. I really do think it's a good looking car, and the Model 3 just doesn't have quite the same impact for me. It's still a good looking car. In fact, if we hadn't owned an S, I'd have thought it's stunning, but comparably, it's not as nice. And I know that shouldn't be an overriding factor when you're buying a car, but...
Well, as somebody who drives a Leaf, I can't say much, because apparently it's well,
very true.
It's an acquired taste.
It is an acquired taste. I was just about to say that. It does look a bit funny, but I've seen worse looking cars in my life, basically, and if you look at something like Micra or Note, which have the same front, they don't look as good as a whole. Whereas Leaf has, like as an entire package, it looks actually not bad. The front is the sort of the bit that you kind of think, but the rest of it is not bad.
And I used to love it from the back. I thought it was really nice from the back. The Leaf.
It's unusual, basically. It's actually, fun fact. I actually, because it always throws people off. My car has the white interior as well, just like the your probably Leaf hat as well. So I quite often get people ask me at the service stations, like, is this the original Japanese build? Because they think you could. I don't know. I personally, I prefer the bright interior. So that's why I've ordered. I've since learned that actually it's harder to sell them if I was to ever sell this car.
Really? You might be surprised, because we often get asked for a Sunderland Leaf with the Japanese interior.
Okay.
So because it's made of recycled plastic, you can scrub it, and where you get sort of the dirt along the armrest, you can just scrub that with a nail brush, and it doesn't damage the material, but it comes clean really easily. It's quite bright.
Mine's super clean, so mine is some. Obviously, it's obviously, there's a bit of a wear and tear after 3 and a bit years, but but it's not bad. So your Tesla is the one sort of after facelift, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very nice looking car. I didn't like. I test drove the Tesla, and it was the one with a big sort of cone in the front, and I just didn't like that. I thought I'm sure you can do better than that.
It's definitely better now.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah.
Although I quite like the old one. The one that we went to Scotland in was the old nose cone.
Yeah, it was. And we've got a friend who's got an old pre-facelift one, but he's got what's he got, a P100? No.
Who?
Chris,
he's got
a P90. No, what's he got?
He's got a 90D.
90D. So, it might have the nose cone, but it's really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a Tesla. When the Model 3 came out with the announcement and all that, people were saying we're not quite sure about the design, and then once they started driving on the roads, people were saying, oh well, never mind the pictures, it actually doesn't give it justice. It looks much better in person. Well, you're the first person who actually says, actually it doesn't look so great in person, which is refreshing as well, because I know it's a Tesla, so I'm sure it drives. Like I always tell people, who comment on the Leaf not looking so great, I say, well, once you're inside, you don't know. Like it's a car. To the driver, the interior matters more than the externals.
Yeah,
I think. But it's funny that you should say that, and it's a good point about the door handles, because we don't have a child, but I do like the fact that I can have multiple things in my hand and I can just tug the door on the Leaf a little bit, and then it does this sort of little clunk and it opens.
Yeah.
And I can feel that like in my hand. And obviously like you said, with the Tesla, you just tug it a little bit and it unlocks, so you can just effortlessly kind of open it. I wonder why they did it the way they did it in the Model 3, because I presume the sort of the door handles on the Model S, they're not that expensive to put in as a part, but I'm sure they had a reason, like to lower the cost and increase the production yield.
They are quite expensive, actually, the door handle. Well, they are to purchase as a owner, but they're actually very cheap to repair. The repair's quite easy. It's only a micro switch inside, and that's the component that usually fails on them. But I think the problems that they had with them initially, because they had quite a few problems, has sort of steered them away from that going forward. Whereas, to be honest, I'd have just gone for a normal door handle. I'd have been happy.
Yeah. Yes. The same with the. What do you call the sort of the type of the car that has the window that kind of drops down a little bit when you open the door?
Frameless.
Frameless. So yeah, they seem to be using that everywhere. I don't know why they stick to it, because obviously not having that would be the ultimate simplicity, which you think that's what they're striving for.
I'd be happy with a normal door.
Yeah.
I would be. I mean, we've just had a week with the Kia e-Niro, and that had normal doors, normal windows, normal door handles, and it was managing 4.5-5 miles per kilowatt hour at 70, 75 miles an hour. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think, well, if they can do it, if Kia can do it, Tesla should definitely be able to do it, because they've built electric cars for many years longer, and Kia have literally just got an EV powertrain and chucked it into an ICE car. They haven't made it. They've not built a car from the ground up like Tesla have. So I think Tesla should be really concentrating on bringing the prices down, the cost down, and just, it's nice to have them little fandangle bits, but actually people want a car. That's what people want. And so, having normal door handles, normal door frames and things like that is a necessity as well. But it's part of it being a car. So, and I think they need to steer towards that a little bit more. So hopefully the Model Y will have normal doors, normal door handles, and it will perform like a car, but an electric one. So.
I think it uses similar things to or design choices to Model 3, just because they've already designed it. So from what I've seen, it's the same, odd shaped door handle, which I've never seen Model 3 in person, so I have no idea what how it feels like. But I do think I would get used to it very quickly. But like you say, it will be often a strange sort of. It will be an issue basically. I would have to think, okay, well, I need to drop everything I have in my hands just to open the doors.
Yeah,
it's the angle you had to come out for me. You had to be. I can't even explain it, but you had to be at a certain angle to press the handle in to pull it out. If you came in from the front end of the car, you couldn't open the door.
No, it was very awkward to do it.
Yeah, you could, but you'd have to twist, and if you've got stuff in your hands, it was just not doable. So, but there's lots of good things about it, though, wasn't there?
That's why we don't own a Tesla Model 3
yet.
Because of the door handles.
Maybe a second car.
Don't put that in his head.
We've ordered another one, actually. We've ordered a different EV. So we're probably going to keep the Tesla. We were going to sell it, but we're going to keep that now, I think. And we've got an order in for another one. So that should be here in September.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it.
Is it a surprise then?
Yeah, I don't know, is it?
No, it's no secret. Everybody knows that we've ordered an MG EZS.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I was talking to people on the UK electric cars group, or one of those groups. I'm on multiple. and somebody was mentioned that they used to work at MG before they started, even thinking about EVs, and before because they're owned by a Chinese company nowadays. So a lot of engineering goes on and manufacturing goes on in China. So they obviously that person either left or was made redundant because they were moving things over to China, basically. So he didn't get to participate in that program, but he obviously owns an EV now, so they're missing out. So did you guys test drive that as well? I must have, because I don't watch things on YouTube all the time, so I miss loads of things. So apologies, but
you should do. You should keep up with our channel every day. But no, we haven't test driven it yet because apparently there's only one in the country. So we know somebody who has driven it, and he assured us that it's very good. He's an EV owner himself, and we've seen pictures, various reviews from China and other places. But we won't see it here until probably August for a test drive. So in reality, we're sort of taking a bit of a risk with it. But at the end of the day, we can, after we've test driven it, if we don't like it, we can say no thanks, and we can have our deposit back.
Yeah. So I think in the UK you're allowed a couple of weeks after the delivery, a cool-off period, basically, so you can just say no.
Yeah, exactly that.
Interesting. Is it as cheap as they said? Because I think the announcement said something about £28,000, or £29,000, like the top range version or top trim, which sounded interesting. But I've never owned an MG in my life as a sort of brand, so I have no idea what to expect. I wouldn't go for it just because it's MG.
No, I haven't actually. Have you?
Yes, I have.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I did have an MG, a petrol one, long time ago.
Long time ago.
So what made you go for an MG instead of, say, e-Niro or other cars like that?
Well, the e-Niro, which is the one we've just had for a week, is really, really nice, but it's so much more expensive. It was 33. Was it 33?
I think it was 33 after the grant.
After the grant, yeah. So it's a lot more expensive, and I don't know. What would have stopped us getting the e-Niro?
An 18-month waiting time.
And that.
That's another sort of rant for me to probably put in a show, because what I don't like about the car manufacturers is that they just make it a version of their car. What I love about Leaf is that it's built to be an EV from ground up. Obviously, as a car manufacturer, they have to reuse some of the parts and things like that from other cars in their or versions of their cars. But as an entire car, it's just through and through an EV. And I would love somebody like Kia or other car manufacturers just to say, okay, well, we're going to reserve this model just to be an EV, and it's not going to be a funky looking, spaceship like car that's going to stand out on the road, and it's just going to be like everyone's going to be looking at what's that. But it's it. Which is what I like. I like the fact that Nissan actually stuck to it, but they seem to have lost the sort of the steam. They used to lead. If you look at any sort of sales figures from the last couple of years, they used to lead the sales of EVs, because obviously Nissan Leaf was a thing that they were pushing for, and if you go to if I go to my local garage now, Nissan garage, they don't even have one on display inside in the showroom.
That's bad.
They still have rapid chargers and all that, but they kind of seem. I think it differs obviously between garages, but they seem to have lost the lead on an EV, and especially in the UK, I don't think there is any other car manufacturer that actually, apart from Tesla obviously, who pushes for just EVs, where you can't just walk into Renault garage and have a Zoe on display. I think, well, I wish this has obviously shifted a little bit. I might be a pessimist, but I don't like the fact that you can't just walk into a garage nowadays and just buy, like I did with the Leaf, just put the deposit down and just buy the newest, greatest, latest, and just get it delivered in 6 weeks. Maybe it's still true with Nissan, because they seem to be producing loads of them, but the demand isn't there because I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, what do you guys think? Like, what is in your opinion, what is the current kind of state of the market?
We actually had that discussion the other day with somebody, and I can't remember who it was, about how you want to be able to walk into a dealership and see and buy an electric car. And that's one of the main things that's putting people off, is that waiting time, isn't it, to get them? And I think people that manufacturers are just shooting themselves in the foot with that, really, because people do want things now. That's never going to change. If they make a decision, they want it now, don't they? And if they can't, then they're going to go and get something else. So I don't know. Who was it? We can't remember who it was. It was in the last few days. We had that very discussion.
Yeah, it's a very popular subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you think is making somebody like Kia or what's the other manufacturer that Hyundai, that they have very long lead times when it comes to ordering cars? Do you think they knew before they went into it, or did you think they underestimated the demand?
Okay, so so they're deliberately not making them at the rate they can do, and they're blaming it on battery supplies, which is completely unfounded, because there's no issues with battery supplies at all. The reason is because if they sell too many of those, it encroaches on the sales of their other vehicles. And actually, there's more profit in internal combustion cars. So the amount of profit that you get out of an EV is substantially less than what you get out of a internal combustion car, and after sales as well, because the servicing is minimal. So when it comes to what you can charge a customer on servicing for the next 3 or 4 years, it's going down and down and down. And actually, if you ask a company, do you want to make more money or less money, they're going to choose more. So I think they've closed the order books now for the Kona and for the e-Niro. So the 18-month waiting, they've got so many orders, they think, well, actually, we've got too many. So actually, these people could potentially be buying a diesel or a petrol version of another car that they manufacture and making them more money, whereas now they're at a point where they're actively losing money in comparison to an internal combustion car. So that's the reason they're doing that. They have got other EVs in the pipeline on a different platform, an EV platform, on a skateboard type platform, which everybody's doing, and so that will come. But they can't. A manufacturer can't just swap. It's very, very difficult. Manufacturers have been making cars for hundreds of years, and to say to them, okay, you've got to make EVs from tomorrow, they would just go bust. They wouldn't be able to do it. Fortunately, my job is I work in powertrain on electric vehicles, so I understand the way that batteries are made. And when you talk about a battery being made, it's actually very, very difficult. So it has substantially less moving parts anyway, than an internal combustion engine, but it's really difficult. It has to go through a lot of testing in the form of having dust put on it, submersion, vibration, crash tests, all sorts of different commissioning, voltages and resistance and impedance has to be absolutely perfect, and if it's not, it needs to be made perfect. So just because there's a high risk with it if something goes wrong. So the companies are changing, but they can't change instantly. So there was another question you asked earlier, and that was another vehicle manufacturer where you can walk in and buy an electric car. And if you walk into Jaguar, you can have an I-Pace within a week.
That's true. Yeah, because they probably manufactured more than they can sell. But I've never test driven one. It's a long story, but we now have a garage pretty much around the corner. It used to be in Sevenoaks, but they moved to Tunbridge.
A Jaguar.
Yes, Jaguar garage.
Yeah.
But if you walk around the garage, I haven't seen any I-Paces outside. There's loads of Land Rovers and things like that. But the main issue that I'm having with I-Pace is the price tag. Yeah, it's still a very expensive car, and I think I don't know why. Obviously, I'm sure there's reasons, but but for the price of a new Leaf, you could get an F-Pace and some other or a Range Rover, and you have to triple that price to buy an I-Pace or actually double it, which doesn't seem to be very fair. Which is probably why they're not selling too many of them.
They are selling actually quite well.
Okay.
They've got, they're doing quite well sales, and I can sort of explain a little bit about why that is. The car's not manufactured in this country; it's manufactured in Graz, and the battery is supplied by somebody else. And the reason for that is because Jaguar at the time needed to build an EV, but they didn't have a facility to build batteries or powertrains, EDUs, and all the gubbins that go into an electric car they couldn't build. So they had to have the car commissioned and made somewhere else. So everything was designed at Whitby in Coventry, and then that design was then taken over to Austria, where it's manufactured, and it is manufactured now. So there's an element of transport factored in there, the element of cost, and the fact that they're using a lot of third-party suppliers to build the car. So they're not in control of the components from start to finish. So they can't sort of hone the process. Whereas when they're making engines, they've got the whole process from when they get the part to where it's machined, and then it basically gets put into the car. They've got that whole process. They're relying on other people. So it's quite an expensive process to do that. However, going forward, the next range of EVs that come out of Jaguar Land Rover will be made by them, and they'll be made in the UK, all of it. Interesting.
Like, that sounds like something I should probably get you on the podcast again, just talk about those things, because I've sort of deliberately didn't ask you, like, even though you're wearing, an obvious.
Yeah.
People on the podcast can't see it, obviously.
Yeah.
But
sure.
But because I knew that once we get into those things, it's it's a couple of hours basically.
That's a Skoda.
Yes, and the VW underneath it.
Yeah.
Actually, they've invited quite a lot of people from the sort of local area to look at the I-Pace when it came out. We couldn't test drive it back then because it was literally just like a showcase or showpiece model driving around. But I love the I love the design of it. It looks amazing. Like as a car, it's very nice.
Personally, the front I think is nice. The side's nice. The door handles are too low. I think.
And the interior is too fussy.
Do you think?
Yeah, just because it's got that split. It's got a split infotainment kind of system thing going on.
We disagree on this. I think the I-Pace is beautiful inside. It's an amazing car to drive.
It's okay.
It is amazing.
I haven't test driven one because what got me into getting the Leaf as opposed to I think the contender was the e-Golf, which they didn't have available for test drive, which was one of the reasons why I didn't want to even wait for a test drive. Is the fact that the approach that the garage had to test driving an EV. Because I didn't come into the garage as a sort of I'm an engineer, I know loads about electronics and I can figure things out. I was like, well, tell me something about it. Like I was receptive to everything, and the Nissan person, they had 2 or 3 salesmen who were just purely about EVs. So they were not purely, but that was their speciality. They were trained very well in that, and they drove Leafs every day, so they knew ins and outs of them. And the second thing, which actually I think is like, especially when it comes to EVs, is it cannot be understated, is the garages should let people test drive the cars for a couple of days. Just hand the keys. Obviously, there's legalities and things like that in there, but give it to people for a weekend.
Yeah.
Just let them just go, because I had the Leaf for 2 days, and then I found a company in London that was renting Leafs, and I got myself one for a week because I wanted to test drive it more.
Yeah.
And I think I in that Leaf that I got from the company, it was a 24 kilowatt hour Leaf, and I drove it to Leicester and back because I have some friends in Leicester or near Leicester. And back just to get an idea of what it would be like to do a trip somewhere. And we went with Marianne to a pub in Surrey in the Leaf as well, just to see what how it's going to feel like to actually drive it as a couple, somewhere, just similar to what you guys did. That kind of gives you the feeling. And so I've been hesitant to approach the Jaguar garage for a test drive because I know he's just they're gonna let me drive it for 10 minutes and that's it. I'm not gonna get much out of it. And I'm not sure somebody like I probably couldn't afford the current I-Pace because again it's a sort of Tesla-ish price range and it's just too much for me. And B, because it's a first gen car, I tend to not liking things that are first gen because I know from my own perspective is you as a manufacturer you're still learning loads of things. So obviously I'm sure they've done loads of iterations in-house iterations before they've released this model, but once you give it to people to test, that's a completely different environment. It's what we used to call a hostile environment because you literally just give it to somebody to like do whatever with, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So that's probably like not very nice way to call your customers, but I used to work in security, so that's what we used to call things you give it to people. We used to call it a hostile environment because again they could do whatever. I think going forwards, I think manufacturers should do that. Even if it's just like a rental program, you just know somebody has to pay. Just similar to what we have in Milton Keynes, where you have the EV Experience Centre. You pay 50, 60 quid and you get a car for a day. Obviously, I think it will have to be cheaper than that because if I was to test drive an I-Pace for a weekend, say, and I had to pay 200 quid for it, that's a bit too much just to test drive a car. But I don't know what you guys think about that, but
Well, we said for a long time, didn't we, when we first did our test drive from a Nissan garage, because we did another one, didn't we, after John's? We were like, you need an extended test drive, and we asked, and we got one, didn't we?
4 days.
We got 4 days, and we have done that a few times, and we've asked companies, and we're like, can we just have an extended test drive? Not saying anything about reviewing it or anything, but just wanting one, and they have agreed, but you always just have to ask. But not every company's going to do that, are they?
No, Tesla didn't do that, but that was one of the things. That was one of the things we said was because we rented a Tesla for a week and it was £1,400.
Wow.
Incidentally, where did you rent your Leaf from? What was the name of the company?
Europe Car.
Oh, Europe Car, okay, because there's a company called 3FEV, which are sort of down your way. They're Reigate, and they 3FEV, and that's where we rented our Tesla from. But they rent Leafs, and they've got a Kona as well, so they've got a few other EVs if you're interested in borrowing one. But we paid nearly £1,500 for a week, and the reason we had to pay that is because Tesla wouldn't lend us one for a few days, so. I
think that what Tesla do, and nowadays at least, I don't know if they've always done it, but you could buy the car off them and you could return it within 14 days or whatever. And actually recently Elon Musk even said somewhere that he wouldn't mind people buying the car just to have a extended test drive and then hand it back in because in his opinion people are not going to do that once they test drive it for long enough. So
yes.
But that's not a very good way to actually test the car, and it's too much paperwork basically.
Yes. Yeah, it's good though. So I think he said 1,000 miles, didn't he, or a month?
Yes.
For the model fleet. So if you didn't like it, you could take it back. So
you
know what though, if that says something to me as a consumer. If the company's prepared to do that, then actually I might think, well, I'm prepared to take the car.
They're quite confident.
Because no other company's doing it, are they? You can't go to Volkswagen and say, look, I'm going to take it and then I might bring it back in a month and you're going to give me all my money back. Nobody else is doing that. So Elon's got a good work ethic and a good ethos.
It'll be interesting to see how many people do take him up on that offer.
Yeah, I don't
just
think
have a nice month's test drive and then hand it back.
I don't think he would be prepared to answer that question.
No.
I don't think many though. I don't think
Hopefully
many.
not.
No, I think that there'll be plenty who, once they get that car, they'll fall in love with it very quickly. It's beautiful to drive. It's fantastic to drive.
Yeah, it is.
It's like I can't explain how good it is. It's so good.
So I only test drove a Tesla once ages ago before I got the Leaf, and actually we the Polar experience. Polar Network experience. So I've been bidding on a Model S for quite a long time. We got the Zoe before 2 years ago, and I didn't quite like it, to be honest. But it's an acquired taste. But I finally got to win Model S for a week, and we're gonna have it for sort of the end week of June, I think.
Don't do it. You'll want it.
So
that's what you did to me, and now look at me.
So we're planning a trip somewhere up north, probably Scotland or somewhere like that.
Go to Strathy.
But
Strathy's beautiful.
I had a look at the map of rapid chargers, or not rapid chargers, superchargers in the UK, and there aren't too many. So I do hope that they give us a CHAdeMO adapter with it or something like that.
I think they do, but you know what? If you need one, just come past ours on the way up, and you can borrow ours.
Sure, no worries.
But you're okay for superchargers, sort of like going north. You've got one in Aviemore now, which is quite north. I mean, you're talking just below Inverness there. So in fact, no, above Inverness.
Yes,
Aviemore, above Inverness. Is it? No, it's not. Below Inverness, but you're well catered for charging.
We did it. It was fine. Honestly, it was so easy.
Really easy.
I'm sure it's easy. It's just for somebody who drives a Leaf, you kind of look at the network and you think, is that going to be good enough? But I'm sure with a battery big enough, you just end up, charging overnight. Basically, just plugging it into a local post or whatever.
Or find a destination charger. As well. That's something we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can recommend a very good B&B with a destination charger.
Yes, we can, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
I'll ask you guys, closer to, because we haven't planned anything yet. We just because I'm a freelancer, so I can take the time off. But Marianne works for a place in London, so she has to actually take the leave. Thank you guys for coming up on Take It EV, and I hope we get to chat some other time, because there's probably loads of things we can talk about.
Definitely. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And good luck with the rest of your podcasts.
We do have a Renault Zoe as well. So we don't just have a Tesla, because most people go, Tesla. Well, we've got a Zoe. So, which
rattles and bangs.
It does. It's awful. It's such a crap EV. It's really bad.
I was disappointed personally in it, because it just feels very plasticky and cheap inside, and I didn't like the sort of tinny sound of it.
That's what we say.
Yesterday, she shut the door and she went, "Oh my God, it just makes such a horrible noise when you shut the door. It sounds like a baked bean tin."
It does. Basically, the idea was that my wife was supposed to test drive it and see what she thinks about it, because we thought if we get a second car, if we ever need a second car, then a Zoe would be a nice enough round around, and it probably would be, but it's just I wouldn't want to have it as a main car, which is probably why we have not 30 kilowatt-hour Leaf. The range is like 100 and something miles if you drive 55 miles an hour on the motorway, and it's just, I do sometimes trips to Aberystwyth, and it would be nice to just get into something that actually has a bit more range, so I can stop once on the way instead of 3 times.
Sure.
And so I did think maybe we should switch this for a Zoe, but I just didn't like it. That's why we didn't swap for the 43 kilowatt-hour Zoe, which probably has, not double but nearly double the range of this Leaf. But it's just, I can't really, because we don't need the room. Like, the Leaf is massive. I had quite a few friends. I had quite a few friends. I actually had a very good friend of mine from Poland visiting me the other day, and his comment was like, "This is massive." He was expecting a car basically a size of an VW Up or something like that. Because when you look at the pictures, and because it's an EV, everyone assumes it's going to be a tiny car.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's absolutely massive. It's the size of a Golf basically. So you guys going to shift the Zoe basically for the MG?
The MG, yes. Yeah. The Zoe, when we bought it for £4,000.
Wow.
It's really cheap, but it's worth now about 6,000. So because I've gone up, so that's nice. That's a couple of £1,000.
Yeah.
So
not going to complain.
No, we'll use that against the MG. So yeah.
It was Kate and James. What do you guys think? If you have any comments, positive, negative, improvement ideas, or you want to be featured on the episode of Take It EV, please give us a shout out. It's takeitev@gmail.com, facebook.com/takeitev, or on Twitter @takeitev. And as always, I hope you're fantastic, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and stick around, subscribe, spread the word, let everybody know. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.